Red Bull finished on the podium in Belgium, but that result may be the most misleading part of their entire season. Max Verstappen started second, just 317 thousandths of a second from pole, took the lead at the start, and still finished 11 seconds behind the winner. That gap exposed a weakness Red Bull could hide for one lap, but not for an entire race. And the real problem is not their engine. It is something far more difficult to fix, something that could decide whether Verstappen fights for victories or spends the season rescuing podiums from a car that simply cannot match Mercedes and Ferrari. Subscribe to the channel. At first, the Belgian Grand Prix looked like proof that Red Bull had finally turned a corner. Max Verstappen was back on the front row. He was only 317 thousandths of a second away from pole position. Then, when the lights went out, he attacked immediately and took the lead. For a few seconds, Red Bull looked like Red Bull again. Fast, aggressive, in control. But that image did not last. Andrea Kimi Antonelli came back at Verstappen on the Kemmel Straight and retook the position. From that moment, the race began revealing something qualifying had managed to hide. Red Bull had enough speed to create the appearance of a comeback. It did not have enough pace to control the race. And that difference is far more serious than it sounds. A Formula One car can look competitive for one lap because the driver is pushing everything to the limit. The tires are fresh. The fuel load is low. The track is clear. Every corner is attacked with maximum commitment. But a Grand Prix is different. Now the car has to protect the tires. It has to remain stable as the fuel load changes. It has to produce the same grip, lap after lap, without forcing the driver to fight it through every corner. That is where Red Bull was exposed. Verstappen eventually finished in third place, 11 seconds and 586 thousandths behind the winner. A podium sounds strong. But 11 seconds is not a tiny mistake. It is not one slow pit stop. It is not one missed braking point. It is a gap built gradually, corner by corner, lap by lap. And this is where the Belgian result becomes dangerous for Red Bull. Because the final position can make the car look closer to the front than it really was. Third place says Red Bull was competitive. The race pace says Verstappen was managing a car that still could not consistently match Mercedes and Ferrari. That contradiction has followed Red Bull throughout the season. The team can produce moments that look impressive. A fast qualifying sector. A strong start. A high top speed figure. A podium finish. But when those moments are connected across an entire race, the same weakness keeps returning. The car is fast in a straight line. The problem begins when it has to turn. That may sound strange, because Formula One cars are built to corner at extraordinary speeds. But not every car creates grip in the same way. Red Bull's current design appears heavily focused on reducing drag. Drag is the resistance created when the car pushes through the air. Reducing it helps the car accelerate and reach a higher speed on the straights. Imagine riding a bicycle into a strong wind. If you lower your body, you create less resistance, and you move faster. Red Bull has tried to do something similar with its car. The benefit is obvious. On long straights, the car looks powerful. It can attack. It can defend. It can produce speed that makes the stopwatch look promising. But there is a hidden cost. The same car does not appear to generate enough aerodynamic load through medium speed and high speed corners. Aerodynamic load pushes the car into the track. The stronger that force is, the more confidently the driver can turn. Without enough of it, the tires have less help. The front can slide. The rear can become nervous. The driver has to slow down earlier and wait longer before accelerating. One corner may only cost a small amount of time. But Spa-Francorchamps does not give the driver one corner. It gives him corner after corner, each one demanding confidence, balance, and grip. That is why the Red Bull could look dangerous on the Kemmel Straight and vulnerable almost everywhere else. And there is one detail from qualifying that makes the picture even clearer. Verstappen's front row lap was helped by a deliberate toe from his teammate, Isaac Hadjar. A toe allows the car behind to use the space created by the car ahead. The lead car pushes through the air first. The following car meets less resistance and gains speed. It is the same reason cyclists ride closely together. The rider at the front does more work. The rider behind benefits. Red Bull used that effect intelligently. It helped Verstappen extract the maximum possible performance from the car's strongest area. The strategy worked. He qualified second. But it also made the final result look slightly more complete than the underlying performance really was. The toe did not create more cornering grip. It did not solve the balance problems. It did not suddenly make the car kinder to its tires. It simply helped Verstappen maximize Red Bull's straight-line advantage for one qualifying lap. Then Sunday arrived. The toe disappeared. The tires had to last. The car had to perform under pressure for an entire race. and the weakness came back. This is the point many people missed. Belgium was not a sudden collapse. Red Bull did not arrive with the fastest car and somehow lose everything overnight. The team arrived with the same problem it had been carrying through the season. Spa simply gave that problem nowhere to hide. Earlier in the year, Verstappen had already described the car as undrivable in China. That is not a casual complaint. When a driver uses a word like that, it suggests the car is not giving him consistent feedback. He turns the steering wheel, but the response is not always what he expects. He attacks the brakes, but the balance moves unpredictably. He tries to accelerate, but the rear tires cannot deliver the grip he needs. The driver stops racing only the other cars. He begins racing his own machine. And that is where confidence disappears. In Japan, Verstappen admitted he was fighting in the midfield battle instead of fighting for the championship. Red Bull itself acknowledged significant shortcomings after China. Those were not isolated comments made after one frustrating weekend. They were warnings. Warnings that the car's basic behavior was not good enough. Warnings that the team's straight-line speed was hiding a deeper problem. Warnings that Verstappen's talent was covering more than the final results suggested. But Belgium added a new layer. Because this time, Red Bull had a front-row start. It had a clean opportunity. It had Verstappen in the lead. There was no need to imagine what the car could do from the front. We saw it. And we also saw how quickly the advantage disappeared. That is why this race matters so much. It removed the excuses. Red Bull could not point to traffic. It could not blame a poor grid position. It could not say Verstappen never had the chance to fight. He had the chance. He took the lead. And the car still could not hold the strongest rivals behind. That does not mean Verstappen drove badly. The opposite is true. He extracted everything available. He said it himself after the race. He gave everything he had, and third place was a good result. But that statement carries a second meaning. If Verstappen gave everything, then third place may have been the limit. And if third place was the limit on a weekend where Red Bull started second and briefly led, then the gap is not cosmetic. It is structural. It is built into how the car creates speed. And the next part makes that problem even harder for Red Bull to escape, because the strongest evidence does not come from Mercedes or Ferrari. It comes from the other team using the same engine. The most revealing comparison is not between Red Bull and Mercedes. It is between Red Bull and Racing Bulls. Both teams use the same Red Bull powertrain's engine. That matters, because it removes one of the easiest explanations for Red Bull's lack of pace. If the engine were the main weakness, both cars should suffer in a similar way on the straights. But they do not. The main Red Bull car is regularly one of the fastest through the speed traps. Racing Bull sits much closer to the middle of the field in that same area. Same engine. Different result. And that tells us the power unit is not the real reason Verstappen is losing time. The difference comes from how each car is designed to use that power. Red Bull has built a car that cuts through the air with very little resistance. That helps it accelerate hard and reach impressive top speeds. But Racing Bulls appears to carry more aerodynamic load. It gives up some speed on the straights, but gains more grip when the circuit begins to twist. Think of two runners wearing different shoes. One is wearing something extremely light. On a perfectly straight road, that runner may be faster. But the second runner is wearing shoes with far more grip. When the road becomes wet, uneven, and full of turns, the advantage changes. The lighter shoe still looks faster in the easy sections. The grippier shoe becomes stronger where control matters most. That is the choice hidden inside Red Bull's current car. The team has chased efficiency. But efficiency is only useful if it does not destroy confidence in the corners. And Belgium showed the limit of that philosophy. Spa rewards straight-line speed. But it also punishes hesitation. A driver has to commit through fast corners with complete trust. He cannot wait for the front tires to respond. He cannot make constant corrections. He cannot enter every corner wondering whether the car will turn. At more than 200 miles per hour, doubt is not a small problem. It changes everything. The braking point changes. The steering input changes. The throttle application changes. The tire temperature changes. And once those details begin moving in the wrong direction, the driver loses much more than 1/10 of a second. He loses the ability to build a consistent lap. That is why Red Bull's weakness becomes more serious over a race distance. One qualifying lap is an explosion. The driver empties everything into a few minutes. The tires are prepared for one attack. The fuel is low. The car only has to survive long enough to complete the lap. A race is a test of repetition. The car must produce grip again and again. It must work with a heavy fuel load at the beginning. It must remain stable as the fuel burns away. It must protect the tires while still allowing the driver to attack. And it must do all of that while following other cars in dirty air. That last part is especially important. When a Formula One car follows another car closely, the airflow becomes disturbed. The front wing and floor receive less clean air. The car loses aerodynamic performance. For a machine already struggling to create enough load, that loss becomes even more damaging. Verstappen may have the straight-line speed to close the gap. But once he enters the corners behind another car, he can lose the grip needed to stay close. That creates a frustrating cycle. He gains on the straight. He loses through the corners. He gains again under acceleration. Then the front tires begin sliding, and the gap opens. From the outside, it can look like nothing is happening. The cars remain in the same order. But inside the Red Bull, Verstappen is fighting for every meter. And this is where the hard tire exposed the problem even further. During the second half of the race, Verstappen struggled with understeer. The front of the car would not turn as sharply as he needed. He could rotate the steering wheel, but the car continued pushing towards the outside of the corner. That forces a driver to make a choice. He can slow down more and wait for the front tires to grip. Or he can keep pushing and risk sliding across the surface. Neither option is fast. Slowing down costs lap time immediately. Sliding overheats the tire and can damage performance for the laps that follow. The problem begins in one corner, then follows the driver into the next. The tire gets hotter. The grip falls. The steering becomes less precise. The driver has to make another correction. And suddenly, a small balance problem has become a race-long limitation. That is why the hard tire mattered. It did not create Red Bull's weakness. It revealed it. The harder compound generally offers greater durability, but it can be more difficult to bring into the perfect operating range. A car with strong aerodynamic grip can still lean on the tire. It can push it into the track and generate the energy needed to make it work. A car lacking load may struggle to do that. The tire remains difficult. The front refuses to bite. And the driver cannot create the confidence needed to attack.